Hello and happy Friday, everyone. Welcome to the ninth episode of this third season of the Open Heart Collective. My guest, whom I will let introduce herself here in a moment, I've admired for a very long time for the work that she's done, and I'm excited to have her on the show tonight. And I'm going to probably butcher her last name, so I'm not going to say her last name. I'll let her say it. Hope, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's Alcocer, by the way. There was no way you were going to get that on the first try. So
okay, I was kind of thinking that because there was the double C action happening. But thank you for the clarification because now I can say it and not feel like I'm going to completely butcher it. Same what happened with Joel Frieders from this past Tuesday. Anyways, if this is your first time having tuned into the show, welcome. Thank you. The joys of live programming, everybody. This show is called the Open Heart Collective, and the mission behind this show is to openly share stories and have live, raw, real conversations about mental health from the amazing human beings that have truly incredible stories. So that being said, what you're going to hear tonight is going to be Hope's story. Not just her story, but what are those specific struggles she's had to overcome and what she did to overcome them, as well as what's exciting in her world right now. Because when it comes to mental health, we can't just talk about the negative or the dark times. We have to also focus on the light, because that gives the people who are coming up behind us who have been struggling hope that it does get better, that they can push through this, that there is light on the other side. So that being said, with no further ado, Hope, introduce yourself.
So I'm Hope Alcocer. I own Wonder Woman Media, which is a media and PR firm that services female-based brands and also the unsigned female music artists.
Love it.
And my journey started in 2010. I was in my last semester of college, and I had suffered a brain injury a couple of years prior. And I was still dealing with seizures, still dealing with a lot of mental health issues post-brain injury. And it was the realization of, okay, you're about to graduate college. What are you going to do? You can't have a 9-to-5 job when you can't. It'd be very difficult with constant doctor appointments, seizing. I had short-term memory loss during that time. And so I was like, what do I love to do? Even though I'd just gone to school for psychology. Aside from that, what do I love to do? And the answer was writing. And so I began just doing minuscule edits for blogs, like remote clients all over, and started making money doing that. And I was like, how am I going to pay for student loans? So that became my livelihood of just editing. And within 6 months, it became a full-time business. I had to hire help.
Congratulations.
22. Thank you. It was 8 years ago. I was 22 at the time. And then from there, it's just turned into this, amazing journey of kind of navigating my way through the business world. I'm not naturally a business person by any means, but I've tried to be employed at a couple of companies, and it always homes back into being my own boss and doing my own thing and having my own thing. So a dark time kind of led to that. And then in the meantime, I've written 2 books. One speaks to, it's fictional, but it's based on my life. And the other one I just released this year, and that's more of like the self-help memoir that's very sarcastic. My mother still has not read it, kind of raw. And
your mother hasn't read your book yet?
Yeah, I won't let my mother read this book.
Fair enough.
She started to, and then she was like, she agreed with me. She's like, I just won't read it. But it's just raw and it's honest. It's called 30 Things Before 30. It's this most recent one. And it's 30 different chapters that touch on things I've learned the very hard way. And it's very raw and open.
Okay, awesome. Yeah. Well, congrats on that book. It's on my short list of ones to read here in the coming holiday weeks, because it's usually when I have downtime to read.
Okay.
But well, welcome to the show. I'm honored to have you. Like I said at the intro, I've been following your story for a while, and knowing that you're from Chicago and I'm from around Chicago, and it's amazing we haven't connected yet outside of social media. But the work that I've seen you do and the way that you share is definitely an inspiration to those who maybe have been where you are. and even some that maybe haven't, like myself. From reading your content on social, I can't help but feel inspired afterwards. So, with the mission of the show being my story might not help you, but your story is going to help someone else. Let's dive a little bit deeper into your story. I mean, we've got another 50 minutes to go. So, feel free to share. Feel free to share as much as you want to share. Being that this is a safe place, I empower people to share as much as they feel they need to for their story to be a cohesive one. But at the same point in time, I don't want to limit you from saying what you want to say. Okay. There have been times in this show's history where people have ended up sharing stories here that they've not even told their closest friends. I don't know what it is about this show or me or the conversation that just brings it out, but to everybody who's listening or watching this, whether it's live with us right now or after the fact and the recording, this is a safe place. And I want to make sure that is clearly known, that this place is meant for people to share without judgment. And that's from listeners right now to Hope, to anybody else that comes on the show in the future as well. So the floor is yours.
Oh boy. So I guess I'll start from the beginning. Through the whole.
They say they can't hear anything.
I know, that's my best friend, and if she can't hear it, that means she can't hear it.
But I can hear you.
Oh, can you? Okay.
So.
She may not have her headphones on or in.
She probably has her AirPods turned on and not in her head.
That's something she would do.
Oh man.
If anyone else can't hear, please let us know and we'll update user error. Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I guess I'll start, my head injury is really where everything began for me. And this, I feel, silly talking about it so often when people ask how my story started, but that really is how my journey with mental health began. Before my head injury, when I was 17 prior, I never knew what anxiety or depression was. I was a happy-go-lucky teenager.
Right.
I mean, rebellious as all get out and obnoxious. Yeah. Like, I never knew what anxiety or depression was. And my head injury was actually due to, I was given the wrong drug when I had bronchitis. They gave me one that was in a class of one I'm very allergic to, and it resulted in a grand mal seizure. I cannot remember. I've learned somewhere along the way the statistics of how unlikely it is that happens, but I was in that minute percentage.
Wow.
Yeah. Are we still having tech issues? Or are we good?
I think we're good. I can hear you and see you just fine.
Okay. So that happened, and that grand mal seizure and the string of health issues that followed resulted in, the short-term memory loss, minor or mini seizures, they call it, every single day, and then migraines for about 5 years straight, I had to stop driving. It was just a horrible time. But before that, once that whole thing hit, I was actually dealing with also anxiety and depression, and I never knew what that was until this injury. I'll never forget the first day I had my panic attack. I walked into high school, and I had just had my head injury, and I went to do ACT prep. And I had studied 2 weeks before the head injury, and I sat there and I did not remember anything that was on the page because of the short-term memory loss and the brain damage. And I remember just that heart racing and sweating and my stomach hurting, feeling like I was going to pass out. And that began the last 15 years of panic attacks and anxiety. So again, never had a mental health issue until the injury. And I've been navigating several mental health issues since that day. And what a lot of people think is, one, if you walk around smiling with thousands of followers and do a media tour and a press tour with your book, that you must be good. And the fact of the matter is, mental health, you have to work towards every single day. It's like if you have a house or a car, you can't just not change your oil, and you can't just not vacuum your house. You have to it's constant upkeep.
Right.
A lot of people don't realize that. So I can relate. I know you've created a podcast based on this.
Right.
So it's just been trying to find like the sweet spot of managing my mental health while pushing forward, while also being very transparent. I feel like a lot of people that have dealt with this, they kind of just wear everything like, oh, everything's great, I'm fine, I'm recovered, I'm on a medication. That's not the fact. Like, even if you're on a medication, even if you're dealing with it, you have to struggle with it every single day and make sure that you do things to kind of stay even keeled.
Right.
Going off on a tangent about that right now, but
well, we have time, so feel free to go on as many tangents as you'd like. This is not the Ryan show. This is right now the Hope show. So.
Well, there's some podcasts where you like ask questions, and so I wasn't sure if you had any.
I really want this to kind of go in the direction that you want to, because again, not my story. I'm just the curator here. So.
Okay. So, picking back up on everything I was dealing with, I had the time several years ago when all this head injury drama was going on. I was in a relationship with someone that was overseas, and we ended up getting engaged, and it was not a good situation at all. And during that time, I started blogging, and this blog it's no longer online anymore, but it became very popular, had thousands and thousands of followers. And so I ended up taking the most popular chapters or posts of that blog and turning it into the inspiration for my first book. And so, that main character of the book Where Hope Lies, it's based on myself, and it deals with many mental health issues, from PTSD to dealing with abuse, anxiety, depression, all of that. And so when I produced that, it took me 5 years to actually have the guts to push that out. And that was on International Women's Day in 2017. And when I pushed out the book, I thought women would fall in love in like the love story and how it was brokenhearted and, oh, she found love again, yada, yada. They didn't attach to that. They attached to the fact that the main character was dealing with mental health issues and various forms of abuse, which I was not prepared for. I had a full press plan to do this, like, she had her heart broken, yada, yada, the main character, and that's not at all what ends up happening. So I went ahead and took that, and over the last year after, I published the book and began writing for myself instead of speaking like on a fictional character. Instead of hiding behind the main character, I ended up just putting forth the second book that was actually written first person, a memoir, and just my raw true stories.
I commend you for that, because that's one thing that, granted, I've put out a lot of myself between this show and just generally with what I'm putting out on social, but I don't know if I could document those tough times in that way, because video is one thing and audio is one thing, but writing it down and having people hold it, I don't know, that's terrifying to me.
I was absolutely terrified the first time, because that story, it didn't just involve me. It involved a couple different people, of which I didn't know how they were going to react. But for me, the longer I kept that story within, the longer it was harming me. And there's a lot of things I wish I did differently about the book. Like, the editing job could have been better. Even just the rollout could have been better. Like, hindsight, the first book, I look at it, I'm like, oh gosh, I know so much more now. I wish I did something different. But I truly
go back and rewrite it.
Yes, I could do that for sure. I truly was not able to start healing from that abusive relationship until I pushed it out. And it was once I pushed that book out and allowed other women to read it that I was able to start loving in a healthy manner and actually doing like monumental work in my trauma treatment. And while I'm sure many people don't actually have to have a book on the shelf to start healing, that was my turning point in my life.
Right.
So but I haven't stopped writing.
I love how you took what was a really dark time in your life and used a completely out of the box way to move past it. I mean, who would think that I had a difficult time in my life, so I'm going to write a book and then force myself to push that book out. And then that is your catalyst to, or that's what you needed in order for yourself to heal. I mean, I commend you for that. Is that, I don't know if I mean, I know I couldn't, but I'm also not a writer and I don't read all too often. Hence why I save it for around the holidays, because that's when I'm actually stationary for extended periods of time. No, that's incredible. I mean, it's, and what it just shows me is that I mean, there have been a few guests, Grace Presley from earlier in the season and Ashley Horner from earlier in the season have similar stories, but, Grace went into writing and sharing her story that way. So it's just so exciting and compelling to me to hear that that's the way that you moved through. That was how you identified your superpower and how you can overcome things just by letting other people be part of it. Right.
And, it's not that I am a really good writer. I will own that. But what I will say about my writing, I didn't go to school for any stretch of the imagination with that. But what I will say about my writing is that it's very raw and it is very honest. And every piece I write, whether it's a blog or an interview or my 2 books, it's written as though I'm sitting across the table and I envision my best friend and I envision us having coffee and me being very transparent. And that is where true growth happens. It's not with 1,000 filters. It's not with a bunch of people editing, what you have to say. And It wasn't until I started being super transparent on social media that my success online actually began. You can post memes and fashion blogs, which is what I did for a while, and weddings, did all that superficial stuff, and you can do that till you're blue in the face. But I get tons of messages, every week of women thanking me for my transparency, and it's not easy. It's very awkward. I come from a family. I know. Yeah, for sure. It's uncomfortable. I come from a family that's very conservative and likes to kind of keep everything very private. So I am the first of anyone in my family to be like, this is my story. This is real. Very open and honest. But that's how I grow, and that's how I think other people grow. We attach to people even on social media or through books, TV, we attach to those figures that are very open. We don't attach to those that are like, everything's fine and nothing's wrong in my life. That's why I created this.
A little known fact, actually. The original iteration of the Open Heart Collective was going to be an online interactive book.
Oh, cool.
Where it was conceived by a friend of mine and I about 5 years ago. And I would go in and write my story down, right, type it out, do all that stuff. Then you could go in and write your story. Your best friend could go in and write their story. And we could all learn and read and grow from each other's experiences and each other's stories. And then we'd be able to add on to it as our story expands out further. And then the idea died because I was a broke kid and who the hell had money to start an online interactive book 5 years ago? I mean, app development 5 years ago was ridiculous. No, thank you so much for sharing that. I know it's not always easy to especially come on a live show and talk about it, the scary things, right? The dark times, but I know that this is what it's going to take for this issue and this global issue of mental health to really break open, and we can actually find commonality with one another, to know that we're not alone. And I know that your story speaks to so many people because I see it in your comment section all the time. And
yeah, that's really that's always shocking to me, because I always think it's just me. Like, something I'm struggling right now is I've had a lot of change in the last year, and I'm trying to stay positive, and I've been posting a true struggle of mine is staying positive. My name is Hope.
Right.
For God's sake, I need to be positive, right? negative.
You can't be negative with the name Hope. It just it doesn't work.
Or Faith, or like, I'm sure there's other names. But I just
Grace.
My mom's Grace.
Yeah.
My mom's name is Joy. She can't be miserable. Like, you just have to be what your name is. So I'm struggling with this, and I will post regularly, like, guys, I'm really in a negative mood, and women will be like, or not just women, anyone will be like, I'm having a hard time with this too, and message me the book. It's a cool community that those that choose to interact with mental health and just positive thinking and everything online. It's a great community that we have.
Agreed. So what are outside of writing and publishing and pushing out a book, because I mean that doesn't necessarily speak to everybody. What are some of those, whether it be daily or what's your routine around your own mental health? What are you doing that speaks to you and helps you? Not saying that it's going to help everybody, but
yeah,
if we can help one person tonight, that's worth all of our time. So
I have been journaling since I was 5 years old. And I know you just said don't write, like not writing. I know, like you just said.
Well, I mean, writing as far as from the book perspective.
Yeah, not everyone can publish a book to like get out their brokenhearted feelings. I do recognize that. So I've been journaling since I was 5 years old. My mom handed me, I was a very angry little child for like multiple reasons. And one day my mom handed me this. I was 5 years old. She handed me a blank journal, and she's like, write down what you're feeling. Yeah, write down. And I was 5. I don't know what she thought I was going to write, but she's like, write a word, just you're angry, write. And so I did that. And I've been writing almost every day since I was 5 years old. I don't write pages and pages. I'll just write how I'm feeling. Why am I feeling that way? I've started writing physical symptoms. Like, I have these physical symptoms because a lot of times with mental health, you do have physical symptoms related to that, right? So dizziness, heart palpitations, stomach ache. And then I'll write, why am I feeling this way?
Right.
If I don't want to write things out, I'll just doodle. So that's one. Second is I choose personally, just because I'm like a natural hippie, I don't like to take prescription medication. It's just like personal decision. I have to be very careful how I talk about this because I don't want it to sound like I'm against it. It's just, for me, I choose not to. Right. So in place of that, I choose to eat very healthy. And so I have to watch my caffeine because that will trigger a panic attack. I will have sugar maybe once or twice a month because that is clinically known to trigger panic attacks. And then I don't eat junk. I watch my alcohol intake, and that immediately correlates with how I'm going to feel that day with them. And then my third tip is I have a therapist, and she and I have gone and talking 4 times a week 2 years ago. That's how often I was talking to my therapist. That got very expensive, but it was worth it. 4 times a week to now we touch base once a week just through writing an email. You have to have someone. You can have best friends, you can have a significant other, you can have family, but at the end of the day, like, you need someone that will not see it through a biased set of eyes, and who actually has gone to school to navigate whatever mental illness it is you're dealing with.
Right.
So I have those 3.
I have what I call a board of trusted advisors. People that are like my close, like, I tell them everything, and I know that no matter what, whether I'm making a great decision or a bad decision, they're going to tell me one way or the other and be brutally honest. And that's why they're my advisors. I'm making them t-shirts for Christmas.
That's amazing. You have to be so careful when choosing your advisors, because I've found that I've like put my life in certain people's hands that actually their advice was kind of swerved a certain way because they wanted something or because they've been triggered by something. So you have to be so careful with that, I think. And then another piece of advice I've learned with choosing someone you trust is, if you wouldn't want to trade places with them, you should not take their advice. I'm like just
bingo. That's an incredible reality, though, because
it is.
A lot of us seek advice, a lot of us seek mentors, a lot of us seek guidance, but what you just said just kind of flips that on their head, flips it on its head, because I mean, looking at it from what I want to live that person's life makes me kind of not want to answer that question with
It really limits your list too, because there's people like, you're a hot mess. I love you, but you're a hot mess. So, and you know, to that point though, it's, if I'm asking a question about a relationship, I would look to someone that I respect their relationship and I would want to trade with. As a businesswoman, I would want to consult with someone that I would love to trade places with them as a business person. So, you know, it's pending that, but that is something that's very important. So between writing, eating, and just living well, you know, my lifestyle choices, and then a therapist, that's kept me above water. And I've had some very dark times in the last decade, and all of those dark times where I want to say nearly drowned or tilted over the edge, it's because I stopped doing those three things. And I'm
writing, eating better, right?
Just living well,
better.
You know?
Living well, and therapy.
Therapy.
I love it.
And honestly, I think I will have to do those three things for the majority of the rest of my life. And I'm okay with that, because mental health issues, they rarely go away. I would venture to say they don't go away. You just have to keep them under control.
Right. That's why I do this show. The show is my therapy.
That's awesome.
I get to see a therapist twice a week. Except on holiday weeks and when I decide to take breaks because my other schedule just becomes too mad for it. But no, those are incredible insights, and I commend, or I compel anybody else who's watching this or has been struggling in their own world to find that pattern like Hope found. Because if your mind is not right, nothing else is going to be. Which is why when I'm, whether it be with the artists that are on my record label or the clients that I have in my agency business, one of the things that I always start off, or I've been for the last about 2-3 months, starting every call off, like we spend 5 minutes on it. It's a mental health and human check. I want to know how you're doing, what you're going through, how your day, week, month is progressing outside of business. Because if the human's not right, the business is never going to be right.
Right.
And now my clients are coming to the table with it openly. I don't even have to force it anymore. They're like, I want to do this. I want to, and they get excited about it. So it's reprogramming how we think. And if we just call our friends and give our friends the 5 minutes and say, all right, how are you guys feeling? Or if you don't know how to do that or don't want to do that, reach out to me and I'll guide you. Hell, my cell phone number is on my Instagram page. Any one of you guys watching or listening to this with us live or after the fact, you can go to my Instagram page and literally call me. Awesome. Well, we're about halfway through. All right, halfway through. This is where you take a quick break to say whether it's you or someone struggling. And it sounds corny, everybody's saying, anybody to talk to. Find someone who will simply listen. Because when you're going through dark time, you don't want somebody telling you what to do or giving you guidance on what to do. You just simply want a soul and a heart that'll listen. Because you want to feel accepted, know that it's okay what you're going through and that it's okay to feel what you're feeling. Because sometimes if you're not feeling it and you don't have that, you just let it sit here. And that's where bad things can happen. So I compel you guys, if you're struggling, reach out. That's why I make myself available and put my cell phone number on my Instagram page and my LinkedIn profile and all of these different places, because if you can't find anybody else, call me. Now, I am not a mental health professional. I want to get that out the way.
I think you do have to do a disclaimer like that, actually, with everything.
Yeah, definitely a disclaimer. Not a therapist, not a psychologist, a psychiatrist. I'm just a human being with a heart that gives a shit. Anyways. Now, because any mental health story wouldn't be complete, even though it's never complete until we are, as humans, are complete our cycle. I want to talk about those exciting things because I know you have a lot of them. And I think you have a lot of them just based on what I'm seeing across social media. But I want to give you kind of the floor to talk about those exciting things. Or anything else you want to talk about when it comes to this. And as I think of more questions, I'll ask them.
Well, I have two things speaking as we're like made notes, and we totally like gone off tangent. So I don't know why I made notes. Speaking to the therapist part, I am not one that necessarily, because I'm so busy, I want to carve time out of my week to go travel to a therapist.
Right.
So I actually found my therapist through Talkspace. I don't know if you're familiar with them at all.
I've heard of them, yeah.
They were a partner of mine, but I promise this is not like a plug. I'm just telling you, like, my life was changed by Talkspace. And I started Talkspace 2.5 years ago, and I met my therapist through that. And
Awesome.
She actually was based in New York. And so I was able to see her in New York and then also on the app, like if I absolutely needed to like be in person. However, she and I are still connected. And I don't know if you've ever seen the interface of the app or anything like that, but
I haven't.
You can leave a voice memo, you can leave a video message, you can send screenshots of like, my boyfriend said this, blah, blah, blah. You can screenshot it and like send it, and like your therapist can talk you through it. And then they have plans that work for every budget. So that has been my saving grace, because I've had
Awesome.
therapists sit across the room and I'm just like, I'm not clicking. I am a firm believer that you have to date your therapist. You can go through several before you find one that makes sense and works for you.
Right.
One of the worst things I hear is when my friends are like, I don't really know if it's working. I'm like, then find a new one. Like, you're paying them to help you heal. Make sure it's someone you jive with. So that was one thing I wanted to touch on. Another piece I wanted to touch on is healing is different for everyone. I feel like when I talk about my journey, those three things, they may not work for you. And it's important to find what works for you. And just because you see thousands of people doing self-care where they go to yoga and their anxiety's gone, it doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. So take some time to figure out, where does your soul feel alive? Where do you feel at peace? For me, for a very long time, when I was going through my PTSD trauma treatment, my only time of solace was when I was at a rock concert. I had no anxiety.
That's why I like you so much.
I'm not kidding. For the first year,
the inner punk rock in me is going, yes.
Yes, exactly. Like eyeliner, all black. Like I would go, and
I had the blue mohawk. It was like 7 inches high. It was awesome.
I don't doubt that for a second. That's, but like a year and a half ago, that's exactly where I resonated. So it's just to figure out what works for you. And again, my tools are available. A lot of people already do that. They will touch base with me. And then I'll navigate them however I think, maybe the right fit for them as far as mental health and getting that help and that guidance. But yeah, we'll turn it over to more of a positive note, I guess. Projects. So I just relocated I was living in New York for about 4 years. After all of my shit happened in my life, I bought a one-way ticket and moved to New York City.
Love it.
Did not know a soul. And for me, one of the healing things for me was to start over. I came from a town where everyone knew my name, everyone knew my story, and I needed a fresh start. So
the joys of the Midwest, that's just kind of a thing here.
Oh, yeah, and it's happening even in Chicago. People are like, oh, I know them. They're in Michigan, and they know they married my niece. And I'm like, oh.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's the Midwest. No place in the world like the Midwest.
No. So I am back here in the Midwest. I am growing my business, Wonder Woman Media. And then I've recently been elected the Women Crush Music Chicago chapter. So
awesome.
In the midst of the Me Too movement and women trying to navigate in this male-dominated industry, no offense to you.
None taken.
We are putting on monthly events that are songwriting collectives, showcases, mental health nights, different events that allow female musicians to come forward and just feel safe and heard as a community. So I'm working on that.
I love that. I reached out, 6 weeks ago. No, I think somewhere in October. I actually connected with the head of Women Crush Music, Ashley. Yeah. We spoke on IG for a while because I wanted to help them with their mission, because I mean, what people don't really know about the record label that I happen to run is that we are actually probably one of the most diverse organizations, because I'm the only white guy, because the board we've got a pretty diverse board. It's actually, men are the minority in the board.
Awesome.
And we've got, I mean, obviously we have more male artists than female artists, but that's shifting. But the female artists that we do have, the one in particular is an absolute powerhouse and is doing incredible work. We actually just released her song the 25th of November to commemorate, or to coincide with the International Day of, or UN's fight against eliminating violence against women.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
So,
Very cool.
doing incredible work where we can, even though I know I am not a female and cannot necessarily compete in that market, nor do I want to, for that matter. So I just want to empower you guys to empower yourselves. So that's my goal.
Well, you guys are allies. I say that about my boyfriend all the time. You guys aren't women, but you're allies, right? You're helping us.
Yep, as best as we can.
Yes.
Apparently, Instagram is not liking us very much right now.
Is it freezing again?
I think so. You're freezing, but I'm fine.
Oh, no. See, on my end, you're freezing. So joke's on you.
Okay, so Instagram is just doing what Instagram is doing. We'll just keep this conversation going, and it'll fix itself, or it won't fix itself. And anyways, but no, that's awesome. So I know you guys have an event coming up. Is that right?
Yes, Monday. So I've relaunched the chapter. It kind of went on like a little hiatus for the last 9 months. And when I moved, they invited me to relaunch the chapter. So on Monday night, we are having 3 amazing Chicago artists perform at Industrious River North. I don't know how much of your audience is Chicago based, but it's downtown Chicago. And then we're partnering with Deep Eddy Vodka. And
love those guys. That's awesome.
They are just the nicest people ever. From their New York regional manager to Midwest. I got connected through my friend Brittany Brave. She's one of the buddies that like goes around and like dresses up all cute. Like, and they're just amazing. And I was so just blown away by how the Midwest manager handled us. He let me know that if we want female bartenders, to make everyone feel comfortable, he'll provide that. He wanted to make sure however they were dressed would be a way that didn't look provocative. Like, they were just so female forward and just very kind and understanding. I just love them. So, not trying to plug Deep Eddy, but I just did. So I'm thrilled.
If they want to sponsor the show, I'm more than willing to help. I'm more than willing to donate to mental health organizations on their behalf. So, no, that's amazing. We'll definitely make sure to share that information with me offline, and I'll do what I can to kind of press it out to through my network in Chicago, over and above just getting it mentioned here on the show. So
that'd be great. And then I'm also looking to do this every other month. So if you know of any female artists that are willing to perform for a showcase like this, that would be amazing. So it's interesting.
I'm sure I can help you out with that.
That would be great. The music industry in New York is very different than Chicago. It's been a little harder to kind of find those artists that want to help out.
I would say though, but the music industry is better in Chicago than New York.
Why would you say that?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I've spent a lot of time in New York in the last year, and just live music seems like the industry is bustling, but like live shows are like, they're all overpriced. Oftentimes, you don't really do a lot. Like, the best stuff that I've experienced has been like impromptu jam sessions in basement jazz clubs, but other than that, it's like, I don't want to pay an overpriced ticket for a show that I can see in Chicago for a decent price.
I mean, I guess it's about where you look, right? I'm a little biased. Like, my heart's still over there. So ask me in a year if I still think it's a little
Chicago will always be home, but although I do love New York. No, that's amazing. And I'll do what I can to kind of help you spread the word about the mission that you've got going on with Women Crush. And because I love what they're doing, and I wish I would have caught their fundraising campaign a little bit sooner than I did, and I would have been able to help a little bit more. But
yeah, so yeah, they're becoming a nonprofit, which is so exciting. It's been a journey for them. They're so hardworking.
Great.
Their marketing director is actually my former assistant, and she, yeah, it's such a small world, and what she's doing is just incredible. And they're all volunteer. Not one of them are paid, so it's just
I know that life.
Yeah, for sure. So it's just a lot of credit needs to be given to them. So I'm excited to be a part of it. Awesome. And then I guess the last bit of news I have is, being a publicist and working in marketing, you are at a desk all the time, 12 to 14 hours. Like,
I'm at a desk
right now.
Uh-huh.
So in accordance with me overcoming, an eating disorder several years ago and me loving to live well, I've started to get my Pilates training certification underway. And my
Congratulations.
Thank you. I just finished the training this last weekend. And instead of utilizing it as a place to like go in and get a 6-pack of abs, I want to use it to help women rehab and feel good about their bodies without it being an exercise that is extreme, that they feel they have to do to look a certain size. So I know, as with every project I do, there will be that mental health thread that is interwoven with that. But so yeah, working on that.
I have something we'll have to talk off air about that might be compelling to what that particular mission that you're doing. So after we get done here, I'll have you stay on for a minute. I'll mention that to you. Well, that's amazing. And I truly appreciate you being with us tonight and sharing your story and being an inspiration, not just for women, but for everybody. I mean, I know like I said, you inspire me. That's why I've wanted you on this show. I only have people on this show that inspire me in some way from their story and the work that they're doing, because there are very few truly genuine souls in this world, but every single week I'm uncovering more. And I feel that you are another one of those genuine souls. So
thank you.
I want to thank you for that. This will be the last episode of the Open Heart Collective until January when we're back.
I was like, what?
Oh yeah, no. We're just getting this conversation started. We might have one intermixed between now and Christmas, because unfortunately I was not able to get Carly Rice on the show last week, and I do want to get her on because I've heard her story for the first time live back in September, and I was just blown away. And you all need to hear her story. Anyways, but that does not mean the mission or this show is anywhere near its completion, because one of the things that we're working on that I know is needed, because while we have so many resources available to us as people who are struggling with mental health, unfortunately, a lot of them are locked behind this fancy thing called Google, right? And when you type in depression into Google and you live in Chicago, you know how many search results you get? A lot. Like last time I checked, it was right around 12 million. You know that the base of any mental health issue is an anxiety about what it is that you're struggling with. So you see 8 million search results and you have an anxiety issue, you're not going to make a decision. Mm-hmm. It's just proven. So what we want to do is pull in every single possible resource we can manage across the world, and we're going to put it into an app. And we're calling it I'm Struggling With. This is phase 2 of the Open Heart Collective. And how it's going to work is that no matter where you are in the world, no matter what it is that you're struggling with, we'll be able to pull a resource to you that's near you, that you can have an option to call, to message in some capacity. We're still figuring out the user interface on the call or the messaging function. or go to where they are and actually talk to them. Because we know that if you're struggling, you need a limited amount of options, but you need resources that are for what it is that you're struggling with. So we're going to find them and we're going to give them to you. So that being said, that app will be completely free to each and every user. We hope that we'll be launching at some point in time in 2019. But as you guys can imagine, it's a massive undertaking to pull in all the mental health resources from every single country, city, state, province across the globe. So that's where you guys come in. We need your help. If you know of a resource, it could be the smallest resource that you could possibly think of in the tiniest city, in the tiniest state in the world. I want to know who they are, because I don't care where you are in the world, there's somebody struggling. Because when I hear of a statistic in my home county, which is Winnebago County, Illinois, from January to the end of August, we had 39 suicides. And the county's not even that big, guys. So you expand that 39 over one county in one state in one country, and those are the people that we know about, right? That's not even counting the celebrities that we've lost, the people that we look up to. These are people that oftentimes are our friends, our neighbors, our coworkers, our colleagues that are struggling because there wasn't ample resources to help them. And there's no amount of legislation on the planet that can make or that can give us a solution to this problem. Because, guys, we are the solution to this problem. We've got to create safe places and communities for people to allow themselves to be vulnerable without judgment. That's why this community exists, because I want to compel each and every one of you guys who has struggled, is struggling, or know somebody who is struggling, that this is a place that they can go to be safe, regardless of what it is that they're struggling with. And this is a place where only love is allowed, because of the minute I sniff out any level of hate or animosity, I'm going to squash it, because I want people to feel safe. Because the entire reason why I do this show on a personal side is because I don't want my kids to grow up struggling with what I had to deal with. That's it. And everybody else whose parents or has siblings or cousins or whatever that are coming up behind them, I don't want them to have to deal with what they've gone through. I want to end suicide. And I will be doing this show and this mission until I no longer have a voice, and then I'm paying somebody to do it for me, because that's how it's never going to end unless we make it end. So, guys, I want to say thank you for each and every one of the guests over the last 41 episodes of this show. Over the last 9 months, it's been absolutely incredible. Hope, I want to say thank you again to you. As we get ready to wrap up here, I want to know, if somebody wants to connect with Hope, where is going to be the best place to do it?
Probably through Instagram. All my handles are the same, though. So
you're lucky.
So hopefully you'll write this somewhere, because no one can ever spell my name. But just follow me, DM me, we can connect. Also, my business, if you are interested in anything marketing, if you're a female-driven business or female-owned business, it's wonderwomanmedia.com.
I'll definitely tag all that in the comments, or in the video. To everybody who's been with us for nearly 60 minutes now, don't worry if you just came in and you're like, oh man, I missed the first 45 minutes of it. This is available on Facebook right now. It's happening in real time on Facebook. But this video will live on here for as long as Facebook is Facebook. But as well, this video will be on YouTube on Sunday. And for the audio files out there like me and Hope, this will be available in audio form via all major podcast platforms on Sunday as well. And if you guys want to support this show, but not me, major preface there, I take no money from this show. But what I do say is, if you guys do want to support this show in the audio form, you can. Anchor allows me to support the creator. But what I'm going to do is every For every dollar that comes into this show, I'm actually turning around and donating it to mental health organizations around the world because they need it a lot more than I do. So if you feel compelled to support the show, I'm just going to turn around and support mental health organizations around the world. So that being said, Hope, again, thank you.
Thank you for having me.
Any last minute words of wisdom before we get ready to wrap up?
With this holiday season, do not do anything out of obligation because your mental health will not appreciate that.
That was a good one.
I'm struggling with it right now, so I thought I would share it in transparency, right?
I have so much happening.
It's not worth it for a day or two to feel like that just to make everyone smile for the day. So you just
my mind is going. Well, that was amazing words of wisdom. Thank you again. So as I end every episode of this show and pretty much every video I've put out for the last year and a half, I'm going to end on this little mantra. You guys can take it and make it your own. You guys can say I'm full of shit. I don't care. It's mine, and I want to share it with you guys. So that being said, it is as follows. Number 1 is be happy. Number 2 is have fun. Number 3 is you gotta hustle, right? Because everything in life takes work. But, and this is very important that you remember this, there is no amount of hustle on this planet that can bring you happiness or fun. So it's incredibly important that you have those 2 in your life first. And for all you entrepreneurs out there, all you hustlers out there, although you guys chasing some dream that seems insurmountable, make sure you take time to breathe. Even if you just say that word once a day, just make time to breathe because that'll help put everything into perspective. And until next time, guys, I hope you have an incredibly happy holiday season. And unless scheduled otherwise, I will see you all back as we continue season 3 in the new year. Thank you all and have a happy holidays. Bye, Instagram and Facebook and everybody else who sees the final product. I'm blessed that I get to do this as often as I have. And that's largely in part because of all of you guys and sharing your incredible stories that I know in my heart of hearts that we can break the stigma around mental health and that we can help change the world. I don't know about you guys, but I wake up every day knowing that I'm somehow in some way going to change the world, or at least one person for one day in the world. Yes. So, till next time, guys, have a great one.